You hear it, don't you? That thunderous drum beat, the soaring guitar, and a voice belting out, "Flash!" Gordon wasn't just a movie. It was a lightning bolt of pure, unapologetic spectacle, a cosmic explosion of gold lame, laser beams, and operatic rock music. But behind that campy, comic book perfection was a production spiraling into absolute chaos. Imagine a star who literally walked out mid-film, a legendary rock band who thought they were scoring a porno, and a producer whose wild vision nearly tore the whole thing apart. The Technicolor dream you see on screen was born from a backstage nightmare. You think the movie is crazy? The real story is infinitely wilder. Today, we're diving into the beautiful madness with 20 behind-the-scenes facts that forged Flash Gordon.
Who wants to live forever?
1. The band that thought it was a porno. Producer Dino De Laurentiis wanted the biggest band in the world for his soundtrack, Queen. When he showed the band a 20-minute reel of the film, their reaction was stunned silence. Drummer Roger Taylor famously broke the ice by saying, "It's a bloody comedy." They were also confused by the over-the-top costumes and sexually charged tone.
Built just for two.
Wait a minute, Aura.
Oh, Flash, I saved your life. Use your brain.
I'm with you, Dale.
With one member reportedly asking their manager if they were being hired to score an Italian porn film. Despite their initial bewilderment, they saw the potential for a grand, operatic soundscape unlike any other film score. Queen's iconic, bombastic soundtrack would ultimately become more famous and beloved than the movie itself. 2. The star who vanished mid-film. Star Sam J. Jones was the perfect all-American hero, but his relationship with the producers was toxic. Jones clashed constantly with De Laurentiis over pay, creative decisions, and grueling working conditions. The feud became so bitter that toward the end of the shoot, Jones simply walked off the set and refused to return, leaving the film without its main actor. The production was thrown into panic, forcing them to use a body double for numerous crucial scenes. To add insult to injury, they hired a professional voice actor to dub over the majority of Jones's dialogue. This is why Flash's voice often feels slightly out of sync. It literally isn't his. 3. The sci-fi epic that birthed Star Wars. A young George Lucas was obsessed with the classic Flash Gordon serials of the 1930s. In the early 1970s, his dream was to secure the rights and direct a modern, big-budget adaptation. He approached King Features, the rights holders, but they demanded a ridiculously high percentage of the profits and complete artistic control. Frustrated and unable to make a deal, Lucas decided if he couldn't make Flash Gordon, he would invent his own space opera. He took the core concepts, an evil emperor, a princess, a swashbuckling hero, and sky cities, and created Star Wars. Without Dino De Laurentiis holding the rights, the world would never have gotten the Skywalker saga. 4. A director who hated sci-fi. You'd assume the director of a sci-fi epic would be a huge fan of the genre. Not Mike Hodges. He had zero interest in science fiction and had never even read the comic strip. He was known for gritty British crime thrillers like Get Carter. When Dino De Laurentiis fired the previous director, Nicholas Roeg, for being too artistic, he hired Hodges because he liked his style. Hodges agreed to do it only if he could embrace the camp and make it feel like the innocent, colorful comic strips he vaguely remembered from his childhood. His outsider's perspective is exactly why the film has its unique, non-serious, and vibrant tone. 5. A king who almost refused his crown. Max von Sydow is a legendary dramatic actor known for his intense roles with director Ingmar Bergman. So when he was offered the part of the cartoonishly evil Ming the Merciless, everyone was shocked. But von Sydow had a simple reason for taking the role: his children. He wanted to finally be in a movie that his young sons could actually watch and enjoy. He later said he had the time of his life on set, gleefully chewing the scenery and delivering lines like pathetic earthlings with absolute theatrical relish.
Pathetic earthlings. Hurling your bodies out into the void without the slightest inkling of who or what is out here.
This desire to entertain his kids gave the film a villain played with both gravitas and pure, joyful camp. 6. A costume designer's golden nightmare. The film's look is defined by its impossibly ornate costumes created by Oscar winner Danilo Donati. Donati, who didn't speak English, designed everything based on pure visual instinct, often ignoring practicality. The costumes were incredibly heavy, hot, and restrictive. The golden wings worn by the Hawkmen weighed over 50 pounds each and were notoriously difficult to maneuver. Princess Aura's outfits were so elaborate and fragile that she often couldn't sit down for fear of breaking them, forcing her to rest on a specially designed leaning board between takes. This complete focus on aesthetics over comfort is what gives the film its stunning operatic visual identity. 7. The secret behind the boiling hail. One of Ming's first acts of terror is unleashing hot hail on the Earth. Creating this effect on the set with Dale and Flash was a simple, old-school trick. The crew collected hundreds of pounds of dried peas from a local grocery store, painted them white, and then had crew members stand on platforms above the set. On cue, they would dump buckets of the painted peas onto the actors below. The actors had to pretend they were being burned by the falling projectiles, which in reality were just harmless, lightweight legumes. This wonderfully low-tech solution perfectly captures the film's charming, practical effects-driven spirit. 8. Faking the blood of a tree monster. In the Arborean initiation scene, Timothy Dalton's Prince Baron has to stick his hand into a giant, gooey tree stump. The creature inside, the wood beast, was a hand puppet operated by a crew member hiding inside the prop. To achieve the gross, stringy goo that coats Baron's hand, the effects team turned to a simple, edible concoction. The slimy substance was a mixture of honey and melted gummy bears. Timothy Dalton had to repeatedly plunge his hand into the warm, sticky mess for multiple takes. The film's monstrous secrets were often hiding in the local candy aisle. 9. The football fight that came from nowhere. One of the most bizarre scenes is when Flash single-handedly takes on Ming's guards with an egg-shaped football. This sequence isn't from the comics. It was invented purely because Sam J. Jones was a former professional American football player. The producers wanted to capitalize on his real-life athletic skills. They choreographed an entire fight scene around him tackling, dodging, and throwing the ball like a quarterback. The guards were played by stuntmen who had to learn how to react as if they were being hit by a pro athlete. This oddly specific scene was written solely to show off the leading man's real-world talents. 10. The line that wasn't in the script. Prince Voltan's booming declaration, "Gordon's alive?" is arguably the most famous line in the movie.
Ming's not unbeatable. With all his men, he couldn't even kill Flash.
Gordon's alive?
But it was never supposed to be delivered that way. The script simply read, "Gordon's alive." During rehearsal, director Mike Hodges felt the line was falling flat. He pulled actor Brian Blessed aside, and knowing his massive, larger-than-life personality, told him to just shout it with everything he had. Blessed, a man known for his booming voice, delivered the line with such force that it shook the set and became instantly iconic. This one piece of directorial advice created the film's most quoted and joyfully over-the-top moment. 11. A serious actor's joyful nightmare. The late, great Max von Sydow brought immense dignity to the role of Ming. However, the costume he had to wear was pure torture. The heavy robes, the massive collar, and the bald cap covered in thick makeup made filming in the hot London studios a miserable experience. He was constantly sweating and uncomfortable. Despite this, he claimed it was one of the most fun roles of his career because he could finally be a purely evil, theatrical villain without any complex psychological motivation. He simply had to look menacing and enjoy it. His ability to find joy in the absurd is what makes Ming so delightfully evil. 12. A city built on blue paint. The Hawkman City, Sky City, is a breathtaking visual, a floating metropolis held up by pure force of will. The effect was achieved through a massive, intricate matte painting on a giant sheet of glass. The actors, including Brian Blessed, had to perform on a relatively small set piece surrounded by a massive blue screen. They had to imagine the vast floating kingdom that would be added in later. The final shot is a composite of the live-action footage, the matte painting, and hand-drawn rotoscoped effects for the flying Hawkmen. This painstaking, multi-layered visual effects process created one of the most memorable settings in 80s sci-fi. 13. The beauty of hand-drawn lasers. Unlike Star Wars, which used computer-assisted effects, Flash Gordon's lasers have a unique animated quality. That's because they were animated. The vibrant laser blasts and energy effects were achieved through rotoscoping, an incredibly time-consuming process where artists would trace the effects onto the film, frame by agonizing frame. Each laser blast had to be hand-drawn, colored, and given a glowing effect. This is why the beams have a fluid, almost liquid look to them, perfectly matching the film's comic book aesthetic. This old-school animation technique is a key ingredient in the film's vibrant, pulpy visual style. 14. An actress who demanded danger. Melody Anderson, who played Dale Arden, was more than just a damsel in distress. She was an avid thrill-seeker and insisted on doing many of her own stunts. For the scene where she and Flash are on the rocket cycle, she happily performed on the dangerous-looking rig. In the scene where she fights with Princess Aura, Anderson and Ornella Muti decided to play it for real, roughhousing and pulling hair with genuine aggression. The director was thrilled, and their real energy made the fight feel both comical and surprisingly vicious. Anderson's adventurous spirit ensured Dale Arden was an active participant in the chaos, not just a bystander. 15. The Emperor with a wandering accent. Dino De Laurentiis was a legendary Italian producer with a very specific and often comical way of speaking. His thick Italian accent often led to hilarious misunderstandings on set. He was famous for his Dino-isms. For example, when discussing the film's tone, he once declared, "The movie, she must be a funny, but not a funny, a little bit funny." He also famously mispronounced Flash Gordon as Flasha Gordon. The cast and crew found his pronouncements both confusing and endearing, adding to the surreal atmosphere of the production. The producer's quirky personality was a driving force behind the film's equally quirky and charming final product. 16. A hero in all but name. Timothy Dalton's charismatic performance as Prince Baron nearly stole the show. In fact, many critics and audiences felt he was a far more compelling and heroic character than Flash himself. While Flash was a simple, good-natured jock, Baron was a complex character torn between his loyalty to Ming and his love for Aura. Dalton gave the character a Shakespearean depth and gravitas that stood in stark contrast to Sam J. Jones's straightforward performance. He was the charming rogue that audiences couldn't help but root for. Dalton's powerful screen presence gave the film an unexpected dose of dramatic credibility. 17. The monster in the swamp was real. During his trial by Woodbeast, Flash escapes and falls into a swamp where he's attacked by a tentacled monster. That monster wasn't a puppet or an animation, it was a man in a suit. Stunt performer and creature actor Kiran Shah, who also worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Dark Crystal, was inside a heavy, cumbersome rubber suit. He had to lie submerged in a tank of murky water for hours, breathing through a tube, and thrash around convincingly as he attacked Sam Jones. This dedication to a practical, in-camera monster effect adds to the film's tangible, hands-on charm. 18. The sequel that never was. The film famously ends with Ming's ring being picked up and the words, "The end?" followed by a question mark. A sequel was fully intended. Sam J. Jones had signed a multi-picture deal and the cast was expecting to return for Flash Gordon 2. However, the film was a major box office disappointment in the United States, barely making back its budget. Combined with the terrible relationship between Jones and the producers, De Laurentiis decided to scrap all plans for a follow-up, leaving the story on a permanent cliffhanger. The film's financial failure, ironically, reserved it as a perfect standalone cult classic with an eternally optimistic ending. 19. An actor too famous to be credited. The role of Klytus's sinister, metallic-voiced assistant, General Kayla, was played by a familiar face. Underneath the helmet and mask was Richard O'Brien, the creator of and actor from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. At the time, Rocky Horror was at the peak of its midnight movie fame, and O'Brien was an icon of cult cinema. However, he is completely uncredited in the film's official cast list. The reason remains a mystery, though it's likely due to a contractual issue or a simple oversight in the chaotic post-production process. This hidden cameo adds another layer of cult film credibility to the movie's legacy. 20. The failure that became a legend. Upon its release in 1980, Flash Gordon was met with mixed reviews and was considered a financial flop. It was overshadowed by The Empire Strikes Back, and critics didn't know what to make of its campy, earnest tone. It seemed destined to be a forgotten relic. But over the years, something incredible happened. Through home video, cable TV, and the sheer power of its Queen soundtrack, the film found its audience. People began to appreciate its sincerity, its stunning visuals, and its joyous, uncynical heart. It became a beloved cult classic, celebrated for being exactly what it is. The movie that failed in 1980 is now hailed as a masterpiece of glorious, unapologetic fun. From a star's dramatic exit to a rock band's confused genius, Flash Gordon wasn't just made. It was willed into existence through sheer chaotic energy. It's a beautiful, glittering rock and roll accident. The movie is packed with moments of pure insanity, but we want to know yours. What is the ultimate Flash Gordon moment for you? Is it Brian Blessed's legendary shout, the Hawkman attack set to Queen, or something else entirely? Drop your favorite scene in the comments below. Subscribe for more deep dives, and blast that notification bell so you never miss an adventure. Thanks for watching.